Good morning and happy Monday, everyone. My name is Natalie Stone, and I serve as an assistant director in the Office of Student Involvement. I'm really excited that you are joining us this morning for 90 Stories for 90 Years. These interviews are taking place to celebrate Fraternities and Sorority Life being on DePaul's campus for 90 years. So we are interviewing faculty, staff, alumni, and students. And so I'm really excited to have Alex Goodman. She is an Sigma Alpha Alumnus, and so she's a recent grad, so we're really excited to have her with us today. So Alex, can you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, good morning. So I'm Alex. I was a health sciences major, and I graduated in 2019, so just over a year ago. Originally, I'm from Thousand Oaks, California, so right around Los Angeles, and I'm really happy that I moved to Chicago.
Awesome. So kind of, you just said you're really happy that you moved to Chicago. So why did you choose DePaul?
Yeah, so I wanted to get out of California. I really like seasons. Winter is my favorite. I love the cold. California doesn't have much of that. And when I was looking at potential schools to go to, I knew I wanted to be in a big city because LA just really wasn't cutting it for me. And DePaul kind of had all of the city feel right on its campus. So that was fantastic in and of itself. Not to mention when I got to visit, it was snowing, so it just kind of made it even better. And I just really liked that it was small enough that you could really get to know everyone around you and feel like you really had a place on your campus, as opposed to a bigger school where you might have to walk 30 minutes across campus just to see your friends. So definitely really happy with my choice to come to DePaul. And I'm glad that it made my 4 years there really awesome.
So, I mean, you said it made your 4 years really awesome. So what does it mean to you to be like a Blue Demon now, even as an alumnus?
So as an alum, I definitely find value in all of the things I learned at DePaul, whether it be in the classroom or outside of the classroom. I learned a lot about what it meant to kind of be just an overall well-rounded individual in society. And that is something that I took with me in my current job, in any volunteer roles that I've had over the last few years. And to be a Blue Demon to me just means to have pride in knowing that you're doing something to help change the world for the better, which is really important to me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of students come into DePaul to figure out how they can like facilitate change, in a certain organization, in their internship, their full-time job. And so it's great that you like still feel that even after graduation. So tell us what you've been up to since graduating DePaul.
Yeah, so right after graduation, I spent the summer working in the Office of Student Involvement, which was fantastic. One of my favorite places to be. And I also worked at a nonprofit organization called Immerman Angels, which provides one-on-one cancer support to cancer patients and their caregivers. But shortly after graduation, I actually got a position at Alpha Phi. Their headquarters is in Evanston, and I'm actually with the foundation. So I get to work on all of the philanthropic giving that Alpha Phi chapters all over the country are doing. I'm the office administrator for the foundation. So I really get to touch all parts of our team, help with development, and as well as all of our finances and planning events. So it's really been a great opportunity to feel like I'm making a difference in a nonprofit sector, but also taking the skills that I learned as a sorority woman to the next level.
So kind of speaking on that, how did your experience in Alpha Sigma Alpha, and I know you were also on the Panhellenic Executive Board, help you achieve your career goals?
So I went into college with the plan that I was going to medical school, hence the health science major. And towards the end of my 4 years, it became clearer to me that medical school was not going to be the best option for me, school-wise, mentally, emotionally. It just didn't make the most sense. I really fell in love with the nonprofit world when I got my first internship with Immerman Angels.
Mm-hmm.
And being part of an organization like ASA or being on the Panhellenic Council really taught me to see, the bigger picture in a lot of other organizations. We are values-based organizations. We like to do good for the community, for the world. So it really took my career opportunities to the next level because I was able to see what I could do from my sorority experience in the outside world. So I found a really great home in the nonprofit sector because I feel like I can still do that good that I was doing in my chapter and on the council, but for an even greater community. Even though I'm still in the fraternity and sorority space, I'm seeing how chapters all over the country are still making a difference.
Yeah. And I know I kind of talked about it a little bit, but you had some leadership roles both in ASA and on Panhellenic. So what were some of the lessons you learned, if you want to talk about also like the most challenging and rewarding parts of being a leader within the fraternity and sorority life community?
Being a leader in fraternity and sorority life is definitely not a walk in the park, that's for sure. I think when I took my first leadership position right after joining ASA, and that kind of put me on a path to feel like I could do more and more to be more involved in the greater FSL community. And when I was on the Panhellenic Council, I learned very quickly that it was going to be very challenging to be in a position of authority per se with my peers. That was definitely the hardest part. Also, it was also rewarding being able to see how my relationships were able to withstand being in the position. I was VP of standards, so not the easiest position to hold either. So, dealing with some of the issues that we came across, or, just sanctions during recruitment, but also talking to my best friends who were in FSL as well, trying to deal with these circumstances was not easy. And I definitely learned that I needed to be able to separate my friendships from my positions in order to be able to create a healthy balance between the two. So as hard as it was, I'm definitely glad I held leadership positions, especially on the council. It helped me grow immensely as an individual. I learned a lot about myself through all of that and how I need to be a stronger individual myself. And I'm definitely grateful for those experiences, no matter how difficult they were along the way.
Because I feel like they teach you like so much about like how, as you kind of said, like how to separate like friendships and your work on the council or your work on your chapter executive board, and how much that will bleed into your full-time job after graduation.
Absolutely.
Because you have to deal with those challenges. And I think being a leader within Fraternities for Life, you get to like make all those like missteps and learn from them in a very like safe environment, and be able to have those conversations about like, okay, you could have done it this way. And that's like so helpful going into the real world.
Absolutely. And even as in the professional world now, it feels weird calling myself a professional year after graduation, but in the working world, I'm still using the skills that I learned, especially being able to separate, being really good friends with my coworkers, but also at the same time having to maintain a professional rapport with them so I can get all of our work done.
Of course. So, I mean, as we, talked about, being in Fraternities for Life, especially as a leader, can be really challenging, and you need those people around you who are going to support you. So can you talk about a mentor or an advisor that made an impact on your experience, and why?
Well, of course you, Natalie. When I joined ASA as a sophomore, and I wasn't anticipating joining a sorority from the beginning of my DePaul experience. So, I mean, it took me a year to kind of get really involved. But after I joined, I found more and more ways to get involved because of the current executive board from the year that I joined. I forget who was on that board that was installed, but the president was Esmeralda Silva. And I very quickly, like she maintained a presence on campus that you knew who she was, but she was also making great change in the FSL community. And I remember I really wanted to apply for this one great opportunity to go to UIFI, and I was really interested in it, but I was a new member, so I was really nervous that it wasn't going to pan out well for me. And I saw her in a building, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to ask her these questions, even though she barely knows who I am. So I just started asking her all these questions, and she really helped me kind of guide me towards being more involved in Panhellenic as a whole. We ended up being partners during recruitment that year on the recruitment team. And she taught me a lot of how to maintain being a leader in such a big organization, but also still having so many people respect her along the way. So we're still great friends now, and I appreciate her friendship always, but I also really do appreciate everything that she did to teach me what it meant to be a sorority leader.
Yeah, I think that's like so great that you mentioned like a peer, because I think peers can be so influential in helping you along in that leadership journey, especially when you are just joining Fraternity and Sorority Life and you're trying to navigate this big system and figuring out how do I like make a change? Like, how do I become a change agent? And I think oftentimes like people will look to those advisors, who are great role models, but peers can also tell you what it's like right now, and tell you like what's gonna be really fun and what's gonna be really hard. And so I think that's great that you were able to find that through a peer.
Definitely.
So what is your favorite value of your organization and why?
Ooh, that's a hard one. So ASA has 8 values, I want to say. And I have to say my favorite is probably, it's a toss-up between 2 of them. So integrity is one of them, and that even before I joined my organization, integrity was a really important part of my just being. I really feel strongly about having strong moral principles, and making decisions with the best intentions. So seeing that came with the organization that I ended up joining, and knowing that all of the women in my organization felt a passion towards integrity as well, was really, really important to me. The other one that I also really like is learning. We value expanding our minds, always, whether it be in the classroom, in the community, or just with another person. So I feel like even today, I'm still learning as much as I possibly can in my professional role. But I'm also trying to educate myself on all sorts of other things that are going on in the world. And having the value of learning labeled with my organization really gave me another platform to see that there were so many other people like me who liked to keep learning and expanding their minds and just taking in more information. So those 2, I don't know if I can pick a favorite between those 2, but those are definitely my favorites.
Yeah, it's hard to pick. It's definitely hard to pick one. So kind of, continue on like with your experience in your organization. What does sisterhood mean to you?
Sisterhood to me, it definitely means a lot more than just my own chapter itself. I found when joining the Panhellenic community that was where sisterhood was for me. It was, yes, I had it in my own chapter. I had it with my big and my little. But sisterhood as a whole was really the entire community, no matter the letters that we wore. I really found great benefits to having friends in every chapter on campus. Because although we were in different chapters, we still had to share this bond of Panhellenic sisterhood, which is what brought us all together in the first place. So regardless of our differences, or like I said, just the different letters on our shirts, it really meant so much more to have a great community of people to go to at all times whenever I needed someone. And that continues even today. I work for an organization that wasn't my own. Yeah. So all of my colleagues, for the most part, are members of a different organization. But being welcomed with open arms into that organization, regardless of the chapter I'm affiliated with, meant so much to me, because they know that the value of sisterhood is something that every Panhellenic woman shares. So sisterhood is definitely just, it's community.
Mm-hmm. So kind of going off that, what is your best advice for someone interested in joining the Fraternity and Sorority Life community at DePaul?
Just do it. No, honestly, I'm very glad that I ended up joining when I did. And, everything happens for a reason. Mm-hmm. Do I think about sometimes what would have happened if I had joined as a freshman? Sure. Would things have worked out differently? Probably. But every experience that I had at DePaul, I can attribute to being a part of fraternity and sorority life. Whether it was attending events or having an on-campus job, every aspect of my DePaul experience can be tied back to joining ASA my sophomore year. So anyone who's looking to join, just do it. I don't regret it for a second. Mm-hmm. Everyone finds their place, and I found mine. So I think if someone who was totally not going to join fraternity and sorority life can find their place, you can too.
That's awesome. So before we talk about your favorite memory of being in your organization, what was your favorite DePaul memory outside of fraternity and sorority life?
Ooh. Probably I would have to say senior year, I got to be the student coordinator for Blue Demon Week. And, I would say DePaul is interesting in the fact that, we don't have a football team. So sports, we rely on our basketball team to give us all of our school spirit and motivation. And our basketball team was doing pretty well recently, from what I know. But Blue Demon Week was another way for me to feel pride in the school that I chose to attend. Mm-hmm. So my junior year, I got to help out on the committee, and I had a great time planning events and attending all of the events with other Blue Demons who wanted to show their school spirit. And then senior year, when I got the opportunity to actually plan the week itself, it really felt like my whole experience was coming full circle. Mm-hmm. As a Blue Demon, from the second that I stepped on campus to the second that I was going to leave. There were definitely some hiccups along the way because of the polar vortex that year. But our Blue Demon pasta dinner event that was supporting the basketball team brought in so many students and staff members across campus. And everybody had such a great time. And that really just kind of meant the world, that even though the event had to be postponed, we were still able to put on a great event that all members of campus could enjoy. So that's something that I will always remember. It was such a great experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
That's awesome. So our last question for you, what was your favorite memory of being in your organization, or just in general being part of the fraternity and sorority life community?
So since I joined as a sophomore, my junior and senior year, I did not recruit for my own chapter. I was disassociated on the recruitment team and then Panhellenic exec. So those experiences were great, but even greater was getting to run home to my chapter on bid day. Mm-hmm. So I ran home 3 times. It was great, all 3 times. But that memory of fraternity and sorority life always will stand out to me, because it is one of those moments each year that was just always full of happiness and joy, and everyone was excited, no matter if you were a new member or a graduating senior. So those 3 times that I ran home, tons of fun. Some of my best memories, favorite photos were from bid day. But the running home part really kind of made my whole fraternity and sorority experience what it was.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us this morning and telling us a little bit more about your experience as an undergrad and what you've been up to since post-grad. We will have 2 more interviews this week on Wednesday and Thursday. So please check back in at our Facebook page for more 90 Stories for 90 Years interviews. Bye, everyone.